what is machine learning, what is analytics, what is deep learning, बहुत सारे नाम हैं, लोग बहुत confused हो रहे होते हैं. I think there are 3 thought processes. Let's put them in order. Hi, my name is Dipesh and I work at Correlation School of AI and Data Science. आज का जो टॉपिक है, आज का जो डिस्कशन है, this was a question around what is machine learning, what is analytics, what is deep learning. बहुत सारे नाम हैं, लोग बहुत confused हो रहे हैं. Let's put them in order. So, largely यहाँ पर 3 तरीके के सोचने का तरीका है. There are 3 thought processes. Thought process number 1 is what we refer to as analytics. The analytical thought process. Usually people call it data analytics and we will use that name too. So data analytics, the analytical thought process has one primary objective. It talks about past and usually that data from the past is summarized. And this summary is then utilized to make decisions about the future. But it is largely, a summary, a footprint kind of a situation. We use things like, let's say, exploratory analysis. We talk about Tableau. We talk about Power BI, SQL, fetching the data, processing it, displaying it on a dashboard. So all of that. So decision for future is where the data analytics comes into play. The next topic that is continued in the complete sequence, the next thought process is machine learning. And as the name is suggesting, it is primarily learning. अगर एक इंसान सीख सकता है तो एक मशीन भी सीख ही सकती है. कैसे? It learns with error. It learns with attempting and then trying to see, okay, this would happen, but then it makes mistake. And then from that mistake, it tries to correct those errors. Either happens in regression, classification. There are, a lot of ways we can do machine learning. Supervised, unsupervised, watch those videos of mine. But machine learning largely is concentrated on prediction. It talks about future. Also, machine learning is a little more granular. In data analytics, what we used to do was we used to create a summary of the whole data. Let's say we had a data set of sales and we are trying to see how much sales, how much revenue happened in the month of May, how much happened in the month of April, how much was in the month of March. And hence, if we know for these months, then we can predict or we can at least expect something for the upcoming months. That was a summary of the past data. Whereas with machine learning, we are a little more granular. We do not just talk about the summary, but rather we talk in a more specific manner too. So let's say we would want to understand agar bank mein hai, if we would want to give the loan to someone or not give that loan to someone. So if the answer is a yes or a no, a specific classification problem, then ये एक जने की बात कर रहे होंगे. Either we give the loan to person A, अगर वो पैसा लौटाएगा या नहीं लौटाएगा. Person B के लिए वो decision अलग होगा. So that analysis happens a row by row analysis. It's much more granular. Whereas with data analytics, it was an aggregate of all the columns that we utilized for making the decision. The third aspect of this complete journey is the deep learning. There are people who would rather call it artificial intelligence. There are people, giving different names to this particular domain, but I prefer calling it deep learning. The deep learning is machine learning, but we utilize this concept of neural networks. Neural network, again, a system inspired by human brains, and how a human brain works is it takes an input from a lot of different senses and processes that input and gives a singular output. This output can later on be utilized as an input to something else. So let's say we have multiple neurons and we can, this kind of a calculation procedure is what we call a neural network. Somehow, if the neural network is, connected, there are a lot of neurons connected. We don't call it long. जिसने बनाया उसने पहली बार उसको deep बोला. And hence we started calling them deep neural networks. वहीं से ही नाम आया deep learning. So neural networks with a deeper connections is deep learning. अब there are people जो यहाँ पर इसको artificial intelligence भी बोल देते हैं, and I do understand why they are calling it that. Because deep learning, unlike data analytics and machine learning, also uses a little more complex, unstructured data sets. Things like text. So text example, let's say ChatGPT. So ChatGPT utilizes text in the background. It's a transformer. And वो काम कैसे कर रहा होता है? Usually what happens is ChatGPT, whenever ChatGPT starts to write, whenever you give it a prompt, it sometimes gets stuck at a particular point, and as if it is trying to think what would be the next word. In fact, it's exactly doing that. It is trying to predict what would be the next word given the previous words. वहां पे भी है तो prediction ही, just on a little more complex data set like text or images or videos, something which is a little more unstructured. One thing that is common in this complete story, let's utilize another color. The common theme of this whole story is the presence of data. And hence, all these topics are sort of covered in the field of data science. Any way in which we can use scientific method over the data to come to the conclusions, either with the analytical thought process or the classical machine learning thought process or the deep learning thought process, will all be in data science. If we utilize language, we call it natural language processing. If we utilize images, we call it image processing. If we utilize, let's say, a data set is so large that we cannot just do it on one system, but rather we have multiple laptops that we utilize, we call it distributed processing. If we put that complete thing on servers, we call it cloud processing. So depending on where and how things are changing, what kind of data set we have different names for it. But all of this is data science. Usually, people also sometimes call the complete thing as artificial intelligence. So it's data science, and sense of artificial intelligence in that definition is that anything that can do things automatically for us. So this sense of automation is also part of artificial intelligence. So data science and a lot of automation. So either there is a narrow definition of artificial intelligence where we just utilize deep learning as AI, or there's a broader definition of artificial intelligence in which all the automation is AI. So whenever you are utilizing the term AI, try and see what do you actually mean. Maybe explain it a little better. I hope this particular discussion helped you understand a little about all these terms. If you have any doubts about your career and how can you make career in any of these aspects, and maybe you have already studied them, but you're not able to figure out exactly how to get into the job, ping me on LinkedIn. My LinkedIn profile is linked in the text below. And you can also reach out to me via phone call. Of course, I'll not be picking up. My team is there, and you can reach out to them via call as well. So you can connect with me on both the portals. See you.